In this video, we're discussing the asynchronous version of the Frictional Forces lab. In this lab, you will be gathering some objects to find the coefficient of static friction between pairs of objects using the critical angle. You will be gathering 2 objects to use as a ramp and several objects that can sit on that ramp and begin to slide. When you are choosing your ramp surfaces, ideally they would be as straight as possible and as long as possible, and the surface being as even as possible. It doesn't need to be a slippery surface. It doesn't even need to be a particularly smooth surface. It needs to be a consistent surface, so that anywhere on there, you would have the same amount of friction. For the objects that you are choosing, again, consistency is important, and also the stability of the object. If an object starts to roll, that's a whole different lab that we'll do later on in the semester. You will have the object on the ramp, and then you will increase the angle of the ramp until the object just starts to move. That's the critical angle, the point when the stationary object becomes a moving object. Once you have found that point, you need to determine what the angle of your ramp was by some method. I would recommend a digital level on your phone or on your iPad or other device. If you have other means of doing that, math is true, and there are many ways to measure an angle. The most important thing, though, when you are finding that critical angle, is remember the coefficient of static friction and the coefficient of kinetic friction are different values. So if the object moves in any way, you jostle the ramp, your hands are shaking, your cat runs in and bumps the table, you are now finding the critical angle of kinetic friction, not static friction. So the object needs to be stationary, and it needs to just start to move because of how steep the ramp gets. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. Here's this lab's fun fact.
There are no theoretical ways to predict the coefficient of friction. All values are purely empirical.